PlayStation Vita received many incredible fighting games that made it one of the best places for fans of the genre, and to this day the handheld still receives many new releases, with one of them being Vita Fighters. At first it looks rather simplistic in its presentation, but don't let the overall basic style of the visuals put you off, as it's within gameplay where Vita Fighters truly excels. Now there's up to 18 characters to choose from, with each fight taking place across 10 separate stages that all manage to feel unique, and there's a clear amount of thought that has gone into each of the fighters, with every one of them possessing their own fighting style, distinct special moves, as well as basic combos that make each encounter all the more engaging. You'll soon find yourself laying out 20-hit combos and taking out opponents in style, and wondering to yourself why this never released officially on the system. In my opinion, it manages to stand side by side with some of the big hitters like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter Cross Tekken on the handheld, so if you're a fan of the genre and have never got around to playing it, this one is well worth downloading. Tropical Zone is an open-world first-person shooter that seems to share much in common with the likes of Far Cry and Just Cause. It sees you taking up the role of a mercenary and tasks you with exploring an expansive island, which just so happens to be occupied by various enemy outposts. The game provides many ways to achieve this goal, one of them being the incredible selection of weapons that make engaging the enemy all the more exciting. From standard pistols to machine guns and explosives, you'll constantly be finding new ways to tackle each outpost you come across. To complement this and to address the large distances you have to travel, there's also a wide selection of vehicles that can be used to traverse the environment, as well as using them as battering rams as another way to clear out targets. In my opinion, this is one of the best homebrews on the Vita, and it well and truly deserves a go, especially if you're a fan of similar types of experiences. Now there is no one here that probably hates Konami as much as myself. After following Hideo Kojima since the days of the original Metal Gear and Snatcher, I've always been a huge fan of his work, and PT was no exception. Like many others, upon hearing of its cancellation, I was absolutely devastated. And to top it all off, Konami even delisted the popular demo from the store, making it nearly impossible for those that didn't own it to be able to try it out. But now, thanks to the dedicated modding community on the Vita, there is a version of the entire demo that you can enjoy in the palm of your hands. Sure, it's not a one-to-one recreation, but it manages to capture the atmosphere and essence of what made PT so intriguing. It sees you taking part in a series of loops through a corridor. On each passing turn there are subtle changes to the environment, as well as some truly disturbing events that will no doubt draw you in just as much as the original demo did. For the Vita as well, it's actually quite visually impressive, and to top it off, 3D sound is included as well, to really heighten the more sinister moments. If you never got a chance to play PT the first time, then the Hallway is a good alternative, and provides a slice of the original concept that captivated so many players when it first released. Mario Kart on the Vita is a surprisingly good conversion that retains many aspects of the beloved series for players to enjoy. From a visual standpoint, it lends much from the Mario Kart 8 aesthetic, right down to its menus and general presentation. Watching it run on the handheld is just as exciting as playing it, and this is where Mario Kart Vita truly shines. There are several courses to choose from, as well as characters and vehicles that can all be unlocked through play. Naturally, in true Mario Kart fashion, a wide array of items are also available once out on the track to use against your opponents. From red shells that lock onto enemies to the stars that provide you brief moments of invincibility. Nearly everything is here that helped make the original so engrossing. I've been a huge fan of the series since its first iteration on the Super Nintendo, and although seeing it running on a PlayStation console is kinda weird at first, with the way it's presented and especially how good it runs, it is clearly one of the best homebrews out there. The Quake series has had a long history of appearing on many systems once they're open to the modding scene, and the PlayStation Vita is no different. This version takes full advantage of the hardware and is presented in a native 960 by 544 resolution that makes the image literally pop to life on the OLED screen. Add to this the high resolution textures, as well as both online and local multiplayer, and what you have is one of the most comprehensive versions of the game right in the palm of your hands. Now, Quake 2 appeared on the PSP homebrew scene as well, but what makes the Vita release stand out is the inclusion of that second analog stick that makes playing games of this nature an absolute breeze. Although many quality first-person shooters released on the Vita officially, having the opportunity to play this timeless classic on the go is something you should not pass up. So if you have the means to download it onto your system, I highly recommend you do. Zombiebound Reloaded is a first-person shooter that shares much in common with the popular Call of Duty spin-off. It sees you taken on up to 3 separate stages, with the objective being to stand your ground against an onslaught of zombies. Much like the game that inspires it, these zombies come in waves, which naturally increase the difficulty with every passing turn. To counteract it, you can board the windows that they appear from and hopefully stop their advance, but you also have an assortment of weapons that will help even the tide. There's 8 of them in total, with the default weapon being a standard pistol that comes with infinite ammo, but throughout each level you'll be able to acquire a second weapon ranging from shotguns to rocket launchers, mainly from lucky crates which are scattered throughout the environment, but they are beholden to the amount of gold bars you have managed to acquire by taking out enemies. For every 10 zombies you take down, you will earn 1 bar, which can then be put to improving your arsenal as well as your chances of survival. If you're at all familiar with the spin-off that has clearly inspired Zombiebound Reloaded, you'll instantly feel right at home and start to wonder to yourself why the hell Activision never released an official version of the game for the system in the first place. Ever since Half-Life first released on the PC way back in the day, it's a series that has meant a lot to me. Throughout the years it has seen many ports to a whole range of differing systems, but seeing it appear on one of my favourite handhelds was a dream come true. The best thing about it is that it actually runs quite well, and thanks to the second analog stick, playing it is just as enjoyable. For those out of the loop, the adventure sees you taking up the role of a man known as Gordon Freeman. After a freak accident which results in a portal opening up to another world, you set out to ultimately escape the base and get to the bottom of what happened. Now, what makes Half-Life so enjoyable to me is the gameplay. There are a ton of tools that help you along the way, such as several firearms and items that make dealing with each encounter all the more manageable. On top of this, there are several platforming sections that might have the potential to turn some players away, but once you get to grips with it, it soon becomes another part of the game that complements the entire experience as a whole. If you've never got around to playing it and actually possess a modded Vita, this should be one of the first homebrews for you to try out. Now, the original version of Doom has been available on the Vita thanks to the homebrew scene for quite some time, but in 2019 a new version appeared that takes much inspiration from the 2016 remake and makes the transition in a truly stunning fashion, and are plunged into a series of levels that constantly throw a whole assortment of enemies your way. To counteract their advance, you have an impressive array of weaponry, from the trusty shotgun to the devastating Gatling gun. You'll find yourself ripping and tearing through anything that stands in your way, but one of the best aspects of this homebrew has to be the visuals. It really does look like a genuine version of the console release running on the handheld, and it's not only a testament to the talent of the developer behind it, but also the power of the PlayStation Vita as well. Now, the complete version isn't finished, but the dev has promised that there is new content on the way, so if you're a fan of the Doom reboot that brought the series soaring into the modern era, this homebrew is definitely one for you to try. Super Mario War is quite simply one of the finest fan-made Mario games ever created. It's essentially a multiplayer game that sees up to 4 players competing to become the last one standing. As you would expect, this can be done in one of 2 ways. The classic Stomp plays its role, as well as a wide array of items which grant players a whole range of ways in which to take each other on. From bombs to mushrooms and a whole assortment of items can really make the difference between winning or defeat. A generous amount of characters as well as levels are available in the stock version of the game, but thanks to the dedicated online community, there is always new skins and environments being developed, which really helps the experience from becoming stale. A lot of this work is done through the level editor, allowing players of all types to create their own stages from scratch. This aspect is a lot of fun to play around with, especially if none of the extra content is to your liking. If there was one game that the Vita was missing, it would have to be a fully realised version of Rockstar's popular series Grand Theft Auto. Thankfully, some very talented people within the community have actually managed to get a version of the PS2 classic San Andreas up and running on the handheld, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Just seeing it play out on the OLED screen is a true sight to behold. Sure, it doesn't quite stand up visually by today's standards, but from a gameplay perspective, it's one of, if not the most enjoyable homebrews out there. If you're not at all familiar with San Andreas, and I find that hard to believe, but if you aren't, it sees you taking on the role of the main protagonist as he arrives back home in LA. Throughout the narrative, you'll find yourself intertwining with the criminal underworld of the city and come across some of the most memorable moments of the entire franchise. As you would expect, a ton of vehicles, weapons and items are all included to help you achieve your objectives, or simply to just wander the city and create havoc. Thankfully, it all runs at a stable frame rate, and it makes you wonder why something like this never officially released on handheld. It might have actually helped the system excel, and maybe it could have changed its fate in the long run. Well, that does it for the video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow me on all the socials to stay up to date on any future videos, and as always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.